people are spending more than 50% of their time just firefighting and upkeeping and doing all the unsexy stuff. We said, we'll take care of that as software and make sure that you guys can spend your time being productive, because you're competing against all these other players in the market and they're creating these amazing AI outcomes. And if you guys are not doing that, then you're going to be left behind.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the AtScale Data-Driven Podcast. And today, a special guest is Kunal Agarwal. And Kunal is the CEO and co-founder of Unravel Data. So welcome to the podcast, Kunal.
Thank you, Dave. So good to be here with you.
It's great. It's like, it looks like you're based there in Palo Alto. So you're in the Bay Area as well, Silicon Valley. I think we're going to find that we probably have a lot in common, Kunal, but tell me a little bit about yourself and about your sort of journey or path into what you're doing today.
Yeah, Dave, absolutely. So thank you first and foremost for having me here. So you're right. I'm in downtown Palo Alto right now. But we started the company actually at Duke University in North Carolina. So my co-founder and I, we bumped into each other at Duke University. He's a professor of computer science at Duke, and I was doing my MBA then. But where we really hit it off is we were both figuring out a common theme for making an impact in this industry, which was back in the day called big data. I was doing consulting work for a lot of companies, doing mergers and acquisitions, and through that, working on their Oracle systems and putting those pieces together. And what I'd seen in some of these large companies, Johnson & Johnson, United Technologies, back in the day was they had needs, obviously, to do these massive parallel processing, but there's not a lot of, engines to make those pieces happen. And then Hadoop came around, and it was super cool and super powerful and almost free. You could take commodity hardware, download this open source version of Hadoop, and off you go. So the first time I saw that work, light bulb moments, right? Like, man, this is super cool. But the problem was only a half a dozen people at Johnson & Johnson or any of these companies could actually work on it. And, great power, but it takes a hacker to actually go in and tinker with it and make it all work. So we have to do something to make sure that this becomes super simple and we level the playing field, and people of any kind of background should be able to use this amazing technology. And Shivnath at that time was researching database optimization techniques. He's got a PhD from Stanford, went to Duke University, got a lot of grants to go and research this particular area. And that's where we started to brainstorm in how do we create this complete product, if you may, for Hadoop or big data back then. Everything needed to be sorted out. Security needed to be sorted out. Governance needed to be sorted out. Performance monitoring, management, reliability, those pieces needed to be sorted out as well. And that is what created a project called Starfish at Duke University, which was the genesis of then creating Unravel. So our mission's always been to make operations on these data stacks so radically simple that these data teams can spend less time doing the mundane firefighting and upkeeping tasks and actually focus more on the exciting part of getting these amazing outcomes with data. We've been on the journey for about 9 years now. It's because this market keeps changing all the time.
I was just gonna say that sounds like probably 2013 kind of time frame, right. 2014. Exactly. Does that sound about right?
Yep. That's right.
It's so we definitely share a common beginnings for both of our companies.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about AtScale story too. Yeah.
So same, like different story in that I was working for Yahoo, so got to Yahoo through an acquisition where I was the CTO for a ad serving company called Blue Lithium, and analytics has always been sort of my forte. It's always been my love. I love data. And Yahoo back in 2010 was again before big data was a term. Yahoo definitely had big data, and sort of like your experience at Johnson and Johnson. We were a big Oracle shop, and it was clear that Oracle couldn't handle all the weblogs that we were generating for both, for all of our web properties. And so we invented Hadoop. So we had the team that incubated Hadoop while I was there. And I got the chance to run analytics engineering, so delivering data to all the business units. Hadoop was great because we were able for the first time to actually capture and store everything that we were generating. And we couldn't do that with Oracle, right? Because we had to pick and choose. But like you mentioned, Hadoop was hard, man. Not just hard to keep it running, was also hard for anybody to actually get value out of it from an analytics perspective. And so that was my job, was to sort of get data out of Hadoop and put it into any number of tools. And so at Yahoo, it was a free for all. We had people using Tableau, we had people using MicroStrategy, we had people using ClickView. We had all these custom applications that were ingesting this data. We had Excel, which was the last mile of every analytic ever done. And so I spent all my time reformatting data, making it small, because it started big in Hadoop, right? Because we had it all. But I had to then make it really small to fit in these BI tools or in these applications. So what I wanted to leave the data in Hadoop, have a semantic layer on top of that, basically a data API that was business friendly, and then allow people to keep using the tools that they already were using. Because I knew I could never get a Tableau user to migrate to MicroStrategy. No way. It's not going to happen. I'll get fired if I tried to do that. So that's where the idea came from, and we tried to build it internally. Sounds like you did at Duke with Starfish.
Right.
And then decided to spin out and start a company to do just this. So Kunal, like, what was the impetus for you to sort of say, okay, I need to turn this project at Duke into a full-fledged company? Can you talk a little bit about just what that path was?
Yeah. For me, Dave, actually, I'm pretty fortunate to know that I always wanted to start a technology company since I was 14 years old. So I had my eyes and ears open to do these things. Had a couple startups before Unravel as well. But this particular one, when Shivnath and I met, we both gelled on some common vision ideas that we wanted to do in our company, right? Number one, it needed to be a difficult technical problem that just had to be solved. Number two, it had to be so core that it applies to every user who's going to be doing this data analytics or advanced data analytics. So it becomes like a core feature function, no matter what scale they're running these things at, right? And that's when, Shivnath was convinced that I should quit teaching and start this company full time with this person I just met a few months ago. And then we both packed our bags and moved out here to California. And a lot of, learning lessons along the way. From the first grant that we got that started Unravel, fundraising, creating a team, launching a product. We could have our own podcast just to walk through, the first few years. I'm sure it's the same thing at AtScale as well. But one thing that we've learned in our industry is because it's such a rapidly evolving, ecosystem. We're talking about Hadoop. I'm sure like half the listeners on this podcast already turned this off because they're already in, 3 generations after Hadoop now, right? Spark came around, Kafka came around, all these companies in Cloudera, Hortonworks, MapR came around, but then those are all gone. And now we have, data being run on the cloud with Snowflake and Databricks and BigQuery and Redshift and all of these other stacks that people are running these days, right? So for us, it's been exciting in that we had to go and evolve and actually meet the customers where they are, which is a big technical problem to go and solve. But now it's becoming one of the key value props of Unravel, which is it doesn't matter where you're running, you're going to get that same quality of service no matter which platform you're on. But you had to live through those, twists and turns and changes in the industry, and I'm sure you guys had to as well. So that's been very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's the same sort of journey for us too. We began with Hadoop as our sort of first data platform, and soon figured out that Hadoop was too hard. It was too hard for enterprises for sure.
Right.
To operate. You can be a Yahoo where, in my case, I had a couple hundred people keeping that running. Right. It's like you can't do that if you're a J&J. Right. It's like J&J just needs something that works.
Right.
So our first ports were, Snowflake, BigQuery, and then Databricks, which is where most of our business is. So the value proposition hasn't changed. It's just, but what we talk to definitely has changed.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about. Let's talk a little bit about Unravel for a second. If you go to your website, it's all about data observability. So Kunal, explain to our listener here. What does that mean? What does data observability mean to you and to customers?
Yeah. People are running these systems for ultimately getting some outcomes that will advance their companies, whether that is improve operations, create new products. We've gone from a place where these data workloads are experimental to now these data workloads running the business. And when you're doing that, you need to make sure that everything is running properly. And this quote unquote properly is a pretty loaded term, and observability helps you do that. Things have to work, they cannot fail. Data pipelines, machine learning algorithms, AI workloads just need to finish on time every time. You need to make sure that these workloads are scaling efficiently. Data is a drug. Once you start getting some good value out of it, more and more workloads just start getting generated on it. So where you used to manage 100 applications, you start to manage 1,000 and then 10,000 and then 100,000 apps and jobs every day. Making sure that everything is running well is a problem that a human just cannot solve. Too many things to go and look at. Too many things can go wrong. It's a very complicated ecosystem made up of different bits and bobs of something for data ingestion, something for your data lake, something for BI workloads, something for AI workloads, something for machine learning workloads. But somebody has to look at all of this and make sure that you're getting the quality of service for your internal customers and your external customers. So in that way, you need to know what's happening. And that's where observability really helps. But we feel that that's table stakes. Working with so many customers and so many people that actually run these systems at scale, we realized understanding what is foundational. You need to know what's happening over there. But these people start spending a lot of time and wasting a lot of toil, really, trying to understand why something happened and how they can go and fix it. So this was a radical change that Shivnath and I wanted to bring to the observability world is let's take people away from drowning in graphs and metrics. And you've seen those operation centers with 15 monitors and graphs everywhere. Yeah. Like, I see a red dot there, right? Let's get away from there and give them answers and actions of what they should be doing. And if you step back and look at that, Dave, that's also a big data problem. So we are doing with our telemetry data, what our customers are doing with their customer data and sales data and marketing data, is bringing all of this information in and then connecting the dots, running algorithms, machine learning models on top of it, to then be able to infer and guide people to, this is what's happening, this is what's wrong, this is why it's happening, and this is how you can go and get out of this particular problem. And that manifests itself into some big returns for our customers, right? Number one, you don't have to be this hardcore data engineer to go work on these systems. And that's kind of counter to what companies want to do anyways, right? They want to open these systems up to business users and marketing folks and product guys, right? And not necessarily just the engineering team. But when they have a problem, they get stuck. And our technology, because it's automated, helps them get unstuck. So now it is true data democratization in that Anybody can start using it. Don't worry, you're not going to break anything. And if something breaks, here's the technology that helps you make sure it runs properly. And then the second part is just improving the productivity of these teams as well. We were shocked to see, and I'm sure this is the case from the Yahoo days till the companies you're working today, people are spending more than 50% of their time just firefighting and upkeeping and doing all the unsexy stuff. We said, we'll take care of that as software and make sure that you guys can spend your time being productive, because you're competing against all these other players in the market and they're creating these amazing AI outcomes. And if you guys are not doing that, then you're going to be left behind. But then the more rational impact that companies have from this is lowering their cost, making sure they're growing efficiently, making sure that they can actually depend on these data-driven outcomes that they're banking their companies and their different departments on.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, data observability really doesn't do it justice, does it? Because it sounds like that there's much more action. Observability sounds almost passive, like monitoring, you know. But it sounds like what you guys are doing is you're identifying problems and also suggesting a remedy to the problem. Does that sound right?
Absolutely, Dave. So understanding the problem, root causing it, because if you break down an issue, it has several stages, and we've been able to analyze that and understand where do people spend more time. So what could an issue be? My application's not meeting its SLA, or my Snowflake environment is costing me twice the amount of money that I'd budgeted for, right? Okay, great. That's a problem statement. How do you go and figure out what do you need to do to go and fix that? So we call it mean time to identification, MTTI. So you've identified the problem, and obviously the problem manifests itself, and then somebody starts complaining about it, and then you hear about it. So it's already reactive. Then you start to triage it. So mean time to understanding what's happening, to root cause it, to connect the story together. And then people are doing almost like a trial and error in their head. Maybe it's this. Oh, no, it's not. Let's try that out. Maybe it's that. No, it's not. Let's try that out. That takes 4 to 8 hours per issue in these production systems, is what we've seen across all these different environments and customers. And we can shrink that down to seconds, because we can compress that time in identifying, connecting all these dots, and presenting to you in plain English. Don't look at all these 100 of possible reasons of what's going on. This is what's happening right now, and this is how you can fix it. And in most cases, like you said, we can give them this guided remedy to go and solve that problem. But in a lot of cases, we can also automate the resolution. So you set it and forget it, and Unravel's working behind the scenes to make sure that all of these things are taken care of.
There's probably some AI in there to sort of figure out what needs to be done and what and when to do it. Is that is that sort of a core part of the platform?
100%, Dave, and that's from our days at Duke University, and not from November 2022 when AI finally launched in the world through ChatGPT. We've had AI in our product since the very first days, but it's not having AI for the sake of having AI. It's having AI to go and simplify these pieces. And we employ different types of techniques based on use cases that these different teams and different roles inside these data teams want to go and solve for. So Unravel's really used by, give you a couple examples, the data engineers and the data scientists to make sure that their data apps and pipelines are running properly. But then it can be used by the head of the line of business to make sure that they are scaling these hundreds of users and thousands of applications in an efficient manner. So it depends on the role that you're playing inside this company.
That's awesome. So Kunal, can you like share some a customer story that would resonate with the listener?
Yeah. So Unravel is being used by companies that are data-driven companies, and I paused there because I'm like, every company is becoming a data-driven company, and that's
every company is. It has to be, or else you're not going to survive.
Every company is becoming an AI company, right? So, the big banks in the world, the big healthcare companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the high-tech companies, manufacturing, so many different industries are using Unravel. One particular example that's coming to mind is this transport company. But the reason I picked this is because they were moving to cloud data platforms like Databricks and Snowflake because they had seen a surge in their business, and they actually had to revamp themselves overnight. So what they did is what everybody else does. They took 3,000 engineers that were working on Oracle and Teradata and Vertica and put them onto Databricks and Snowflake, and they said, go and run these data analytics over here. Guess what happened? Right? People didn't know what they were doing. I mean, they had a noble direction of we need to be using this amazing amount of data that we're gathering right now to have amazing outcomes. But these guys didn't know how to even run applications on these platforms, let alone run them efficiently. So whatever their budget was, they had overshot that by 4x in year one. People's projects were getting delayed. Applications that needed to be in production by January were shipping by September. And they had tried doing, consulting work and getting experts in to solve some of these issues. And then they got Unravel. And what we really helped them out with is a couple of things. But the first part is because we are able to tell folks what's happening and how to fix it, what that did in turn is got those 3,000 people educated on these platforms much faster. So they didn't have to go through like a training course, literally became Databricks and Snowflake experts overnight, where they would fire something and Unravel would show you these are all the missed things that you've done. This is where you've created a problem. This is how you can fix it. And then we started to see those errors reduce and the repetitive errors reduce over time, amongst these 3,000 people. And then the way it manifested itself into impact for the company is they were able to get their data projects online on time. They wanted to do analytics around shipping times and logistic times and figure out, the pricing for these various different factors. They were able to get all those things launched on time, which obviously rose the profitability of that company. And then now they're using those data analytics to get even more advanced, start doing some predictive stuff. And this was especially true, as you guys remember, in the pandemic days when the entire logistics supply chain was jammed up. So having these data analytics run at that time really helped this company accelerate their business, so much so that they almost had 2 or 3x over their previous record of profitability in that particular year because of data analytics. And we feel proud that we were able to do the small role in powering that and making sure that these guys are able to, achieve those outcomes. They were also able to reduce all the wastages and inefficiencies that they had in their environment. So for running, say, a unit of work, if they were spending X dollars, now they were spending 0.3x dollars to go and run those applications out there. So they got great ROI from all their data investments. And because, data leaders honestly have a tough job, right? They stick their neck out and they say, I need these millions of dollars, and these are going to be the outcomes, and this is going to be my environment. And in this case, we're happy to say that we were able to get those data leaders, complete their OKRs and meet their goals, and ultimately, do the right thing for the company.
Well, it sounds like you made them money and you saved them money, so that's a double whammy. So that sounds like a pretty good story. So let's move on to the future a little bit. So I always love to sort of like ask someone who's been around like yourself, just what excites you about what's happening in the world out here, and sort of how you think that might apply to Unravel Data or anything you do in the future. So what excites you today, Kunal?
Yeah,
in terms of what's happening in the industry.
Lots of things, Dave. First of all, I'm just excited that we've gone from this experimental mode to actually creating data outcomes, right? People are not talking fluff anymore. When I'm sure you also go to these board meetings with your customers, and we're talking about real impact now with data applications, and people are getting more bolder in their ideas. We've gone from just doing these, let's improve operations, to now actually doing innovation through machine learning and AI. And obviously, with ChatGPT and all these open source LLMs coming to the scene, that's again increased enthusiasm besides just the tech teams to every function inside the business. So when I'm meeting with the creative people inside companies, the product guys inside companies. It's just amazing the hundreds of ideas that these guys have. Whenever we see something this exciting, we're always wondering what's gonna stop these guys. It's almost like those Hadoop days, like, man, this is so exciting, but where will these guys stumble? And a couple of things that we've seen is, and there's some announcements pending in the coming months around our launch for addressing the Gen AI ecosystem, as well as using some of that technology inside of Unravel itself with our purpose-built AI. So we're going to be using some of that technology, but we're going to be able to make some of that better. But if you think about automatic code production, which is a great thing with Copilot or whatever flavor you're using today, while you can get that code out faster, what Copilot is not doing is writing efficient code. They're not bothered about that. They're just giving you code. And what we started to see in some of the companies that have already started using some of these Gen AI capabilities is, man, they're racking up builds really, really fast. And that means that either these projects are going to get shut down quickly because you're going to exhaust that budget very, very quickly, or somebody's got to step in and say, I need to get more throughput out of the budget that I currently got. So we're solving some interesting challenges with some of our customers in building out our new capabilities around Gen AI. And that should be one of the areas that we'll be able to help customers out with, is helping them do the code building, but with efficiency as fast as they're getting it with Copilot. And also a bunch of other cool things that we'll be able to do using the Gen AI capability. So I'm sure you'll agree, Dave, never a dull moment in our industry.
Yeah, I haven't heard that before, Kunal, about Copilot writing inefficient code, but I believe it. I use ChatGPT sometimes just to help me edit the stuff I write, and it writes in passive voice. It's kind of like writing bad code, writing in passive voice. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, you can do better than this.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly.
Hey, this has been awesome, Kunal. It's like you're doing such exciting things, and it sounds like you're really putting AI to real business use for customers, which sometimes it's hard to connect the dots between investments in AI and business outcomes. But I love how you've baked it in. So if somebody wants to find out a little bit more about Unravel or try the product or find out more, what should they do, Kunal?
Yeah, so unraveldata.com, lots of information there around how customers are actually just making it simple for themselves to run these data AI applications. So a lot of good information there. And then, we have our free observability product that's always available on the website as well. So if you want to go check it out and see how it works for your company, give it a shot. Dave, thanks so much for having me here. Really, really appreciate it.
Hey, it's been awesome. So from one entrepreneur to another, it's been great, Kunal. So have a great day. And for everybody out there, stay data driven.